Thank you all for joining us for this Zoom recording today. As you know, we're celebrating Dementia Carers Day, and I thought it'd be really good to hear from all of you because I know that you're all looking after somebody you love who has dementia.
My name's Dave Cooper, and my wife Jackie and I live in Ipswich, Suffolk. We've been married 52 years, so we've lived in this area for 52 years. So yes, I'm caring 24/7 for Jackie with support from our church, and that's us.
Yes, hello, I'm Pam, and we live near Cambridge. I care for my husband Barry, who has dementia. His memory isn't particularly affected, but his personality has changed completely, and his speech and language skills are now very limited, such that it's almost impossible to know what he's trying to convey. Even before his dementia, his mobility was declining. And so for the last 2 years, we've had live-in care because he's been completely immobile. So he needs hoisting and frequent turning.
I'm Christina and I live on the Isle of Wight and I care for my husband, Ron. Ron hasn't deteriorated to the extent that Pam's husband or David's wife has, but it's slow and steady. I understand what Pam was saying about language. Ron has now got to the stage where he can't really express himself properly and he gets frustrated. Between us, we try and work out what he's trying to tell me. It's just so difficult for him. Anyway, that's us, and we're just taking each day as it comes.
I'm Jo, and I'm married to Robert. We've been married for nearly 56 years in October. We live in Droitwich in Worcestershire. Robert's recently been diagnosed with dementia. He's not terribly bad, but there are good days and bad days. He does have a communication problem, always has had, because he's deaf, and I don't think that helps very much. He gets very frustrated at times. He says that I'm not telling the truth when I know I am.
Quite a new experience for you,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
So perhaps you could describe your roles as carers and just say a bit about how you cope caring for someone 24/7.
Yeah, it's now getting very difficult for us. The lockdown was a pivotal year in that Jackie was already increasing with her difficulties of speech, communication, what she wanted to do, etc. And the lockdown year was severely difficult for both of us. I was pretty much at my wit's end because, as everybody remembers at the beginning, it was so difficult to meet anybody or talk to anybody else. So 24/7 care was very much that, and I found it extremely difficult. It affected me as well as Jackie in that I became physically and emotionally unwell, just about managing to hold it all together. So we did have some help last autumn, but then when that NHS emergency help ended, I was sort of back to square one, tried a private carer to give me backup, and I thought it might give me some respite, but no, it didn't. In fact, it stressed me out even more because I had sort of mature NHS carers. I had young private carers. So I found I was having to organise them as well as organising Jackie, and I got worse. As spring turned into summer this year, I have been released in that our church have come up with a team of ladies, and we now have a team of 10 people, and that has enormously helped my situation. I'm back to doing one or two things that I'd had to put down altogether because Jackie needed me by her side.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Dave. And I've sort of got to know you during that difficult season and seen the difference as you've had those people coming alongside you to help there, and the difference that it's made.
Yes.
which is lovely. Pam, your experience with living carers has been quite different. Do you want to share a little bit about that and how you cope 24/7?
Yes, 2 years ago, Barry was admitted to hospital. That was when his mobility finally collapsed completely. During that time, because I wasn't there, his dementia really sort of exploded out of him. They said that I couldn't cope at home any longer because of his physical needs. So he would have to go into care. Fortunately, I had begun to think about living care. So that was hastily put in place. We were self-funding at the time. So I was free to, go to the organisation of my choosing. And after 2 or 3 okay, but not ideal carers who were with us for a few weeks each, into our lives walked wonderful Blessing. That's her name, and she is a blessing. And I feel totally comfortable with her around. I just feel so blessed because she's an experienced carer. She's really good with trying to connect with Barry as far as we can. She's endlessly patient with him. And so I have just been really, really fortunate. She's good company for me as well. So that I find a tremendous encouragement. It just gives me strength for another day. And I think it's important, as somebody said, to take one day at a time.
I have to admit that when I heard Dave say that he had been caring for his wife for 9 years, that terrifies me. Mm. That's how I feel. My mother had dementia. We're pretty sure she must have had it for 8 or 9 years. But part of that time she was in a care home. But with Ron and I just try and keep our lives as normal as possible. Mm. And I think that's really important. So if the weather is nice, we try and get out and do normal things, walking, seeing people, because I know that will end. Mm-hmm. And I've told you that, we're bowlers, Ron, and he just is a social bowler now. But we do play social bowling with 2 other couples who know about Ron's condition, and they're absolutely fabulous with him. They jolly him up, they make him laugh, and it's normality. And he hasn't lost his touch, if he's on par, he's really good. And to me, that's just so important, because I know how it's going to end. And there's nothing we can do about it. But as far as support, I have to say, there isn't any support. When he was first diagnosed, we did see somebody who deals with dementia. But since the lockdown, that has completely gone. I think that's a difficult one. I mean, I'm very lucky. I've got a very good network of friends around me. But there have been a couple of times when I have got quite stressed, when I've seen him go down. It seems to go in stages. I don't know if the other ladies have found that. But suddenly, for him, he says he has a bad headache. And I do wonder whether that's connected, because he seems to get anxious after that. And things seem to change. But I've got nobody really who I can ask or get advice from. So, you just wing it. You just do your best.
Mm.
I think the organisations like the Alzheimer's organisation are tremendous sources of support and advice. And it doesn't have to be just for Alzheimer's, it can be for other dementias as well. But yeah, I think charities and looking online for sources of support is really helpful.
I know you went to a singing group at one stage, didn't you, Chris?
Yes, and that's
the...
starting up. That's starting up again at the end of September, the beginning of October. And really looking forward to that. I think I enjoy it more than Ron does. But he always joins in. He says he's never going to sing, but he always does. Yeah, and it's a really happy, fun couple of hours. And he's past the stage of looking round and thinking, I'm not like them. He just, he's past that stage. So that's good.
And Jo, you're at the beginning of your journey, really. Can you just tell us a little bit how it's feeling for you right now, sort of having learned that your husband has dementia and everything that entails?
It is a new experience for me. I've got no first-hand knowledge of this thing, and I'm having to learn as I go along. And I felt completely out of my depth at times. There are groups in this area which are helpful in this situation. It just feels at times as though somebody who has this condition can just get away with anything, and you're just there to be the punch bag. Perhaps I'm being a bit negative saying that, but it does feel like that at times. You just have to recognise that they're not really themselves when they get so frustrated and aggressive.
Did you find that, Pam, you said that your husband's personality changed quite a lot. Did he get aggressive as well?
Yes, it all started when, I married a very gentle, patient, caring person. And suddenly I was just presented with this verbally abusive, angry, volatile person who did a couple of times lash out at me, was immediately apologetic. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit you. I think because the change was so sudden and so unlike him, I immediately recognised there was something wrong. It wasn't just him suddenly becoming impatient with me or something like that. The physical abuse didn't last very long because along with his mobility in his legs, his arms are very limited as well and have become very stiff and rigid. So there would be, as the GP put it, a safeguarding issue there if it wasn't for his immobility and everything. So that didn't really cause particular problems. The personality was so obviously not him. I could just label it as an illness and so not take it personally in the same way.
Is there something you wish people understood about living with someone who has dementia?
First thing that comes to my mind is don't argue with them.
I think the fact that it's more than just memory issues. I think we tend to think of that as the first symptom, and maybe it is in a lot of cases, but that's really just the tip of the iceberg. And there's a lot more going on behind that and around it.
Yeah, I'm quite lucky really, because my husband, his personality, he gets very frustrated, and I can feel frustrated for him because it's so hard, isn't it? He knows he can't tell me what he wants to say. So that in itself causes the frustration. But occasionally he's got a bit difficult, but that's hardly ever. And he's still a very easygoing, laid-back person, like he's always been. And he's often singing in the house, and I join in now. I used to think, oh, here he goes again, but I join in now to encourage him. We have got a charity on the island, Isle of Wight Carers, and that is just for the carers, not for the person with the illness. I haven't taken up the option of their meetings because I wouldn't leave her on for that amount of time. So that in itself, I suppose, is a bit difficult.
I think the sharing activities as much as you can with your loved one is really important.
Yeah.
I think it's great that you took up bowls so that you could do it together. I think it's important if the carer can find some in the early stages, if the carer can find something that they can carry on doing together into the foreseeable future. I think that's really good.
I would encourage you to take help from wherever you can get it. The church, friends, anybody, even if you think you don't need it. I've been trying for the last year almost to make a final, and I put final in inverted commas, socialising round of family and friends. We've been down to South Wales where my wife's family originated. We've seen her cousins, and I've been encouraging people to come and visit us this summer, and that's gone well. My feeling is that it's already difficult for Jackie to socialise. My Jackie is a very, very stubbornly determined lady, and I don't begrudge her that. How would I feel if I had Alzheimer's? I'd be angry. She gets angry, and so, like several of the ladies have already said, I can cope with it. She does lash out at me sometimes, but it's almost like swatting away a fly. But sometimes she does quite hurt me, but not to the degree that I'm bruised or anything like that. I can cope with that because I understand how she feels, I think. I agree with whichever one of you it was that said, keep walking, keep life as normal as you can. My issue is that Jackie just wanders about the house and now wanders about the garden. She never used to do that. She always had a purpose within the house, always had a purpose within the garden. Now she's lost that ability, and it does worry me that she spends her time up and down the stairs. She's constantly on the move because she's still physically very active. Like has been said, I think if you can possibly carry on life and watching TV, although it's now impossible for us to watch Jackie's favourite programme, Coronation Street. She just cannot follow the fast dialogue. And TV is an issue because she thinks that everybody on TV can see her. So she needs to present herself in the morning properly dressed in case Andy Murray can actually see her. In her mind, that's her best friend, tennis friend, he can. So she doesn't want to be seen in her nightie. She hides things away, and I eventually discover them. I try to keep order with knives and forks in the kitchen. I need to keep life as normal for her as I can also for myself, because I'm quite an organised person, and I find if everything gets too disorganised, I'm fretting about it. And the same goes with clothing. I've had a nightmare with clothing. I know everything there is to know about ladies' underwear now, because it's an issue. It's an issue that Jackie, I think maybe when she was a child, her mother said, make sure you've got a clean pair of knickers and a handkerchief, So I continually find most of the knickers have been shifted from the drawer in the bedroom where they should be into a little case that she likes to keep all her belongings in, including photographs, etc. So I shift them back every now and again. So I've had to learn an awful lot. I can't cook, but I've had to learn a bit of basic cooking. I've had to learn how to use a washing machine. You know, gentlemen of my age, I'm approaching 74. Jackie is approaching 80. A gentleman of my age, you know, ladies, never used to do much, but now I'm doing everything. So it's been a very big learning curve for me, in a different way to you, because you're dealing with looking after husbands. I'm dealing with looking after a wife. But many of the things that you've talked about chime with me as well. And I would encourage Christina, I think it was, that whilst we are approaching our 9th year, we've only just turned into the 9th year, it's only in the last couple of years, and certainly in the lockdown year, that it's got so acute. And Jackie has deteriorated mentally. So don't let it be a death sentence. Let it be a life sentence, and make the most of it as far as you possibly can. And that's why I'm saying, don't get to the state I did, where I was in deep depression during that lockdown year. Ask for help, and you'll be surprised. People will help you if you ask. Don't be too proud to ask.
Dave mentioned about things going missing. That's something that we've experienced here too.
The disappearing. Ron has started to say things are disappearing from the garage and things like that. People are helping themselves. And I just laugh. I just say, you're just not seeing it. Nothing's disappearing, you know, but in his head it is. But with the personal care, yeah, I can well, poor Dave. It is a learning curve for you. It's easy for me as a woman. I've always put Ron's clothes out. I mean, my son has said, you've looked after your dad 59 years, Mum. You know, it's nothing unusual. But I set all his clothes out for him, what he has to wear when he's had a shower. But sometimes when I go in, he's taken the clothes off that he's put on that I've given him and put his old clothes back on again, because he's confused. He thinks he's done the right thing again. But, you know, I just have to say, well, come on, that's wrong, and off it all comes. You know, that's just part of it. But, yeah, that side will, I'm sure, deteriorate and will need far more attention than perhaps I give it now. Yeah, I mean, my mum, I use her as a gauge. I can't help but help it, you know. Yeah, I mean, she became doubly incontinent, and I just dread to think of that stage, you know. But anyway, no one knows what tomorrow brings, so you have to make the most of the day, don't you?
I think that's a theme that's come out of this discussion, isn't it? You were saying it as well, Pam.
Yeah.
You know, living every day, making the most of the moment, really important.
My other major difficulty, I would add, is Jackie's personality was already determined before she ever had Alzheimer's. So now she's doubly determined. She never wanted people to know she had Alzheimer's. I had to keep it secret for several years. And in the end, I just gave up on that and started telling people close to us. I know she knows she's got Alzheimer's, but she will not name it. And she doesn't want anybody else to name it in her presence. A very weird situation to be in 8.5 years on. But that's how she copes with it. and that's fine.
Does Ron acknowledge his dementia, Chris?
He has said a few times, I'm losing my memory. He has said that. And I'm pretty sure that makes him depressed, because I've seen him sit in the chair with his head in his hands. And that isn't him.
No.
But I just try and jolly him up, really, but, I think he wants to think and believe that he hasn't got it. But I think deep down, he knows he has. And he blames psychologists that came out and said that he had Alzheimer's. He blames him for the reason that he can't drive anymore. It's all his fault. He wanted to get old people off the road.
I just want to say that it's only my faith that's got me this far. Because without my faith, I don't think I could have managed this on my own. I know that our church and my personal faith is strong, that keeps me going. I just want to underscore that for me personally, without my faith, I'd have gone under. Thank
you. Thanks for sharing that, Dave. Thank you. I hear you saying yes to that, Chris. Has it been important for you as well, Faith?
Very, very. Because, at the end of the day, we've only got our faith to rely on, haven't we? Because we know that he's with us, he's going through this journey with us. I'm so pleased he's there.
Yes, it's the promise of strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow that keeps me going.
I think that's a lovely note to finish on. I don't know about you, but thank you everybody so much